Oh, do we have an amazing full moon coming up in June of 2025? It's an out of bounds full moon in the seasonal sign of Sagittarius, but as we're going to see, it's in the constellation of the Scorpion. So again, the difference between the seasonal signs and the constellations. And we could look at this as a vision quest full moon. What are we questing for? Sagittarius is always about the quest for expansion of consciousness and truth and taking our mind beyond what it is that we think we know and into something new and amazing and it's a perfect time to do a vision quest because in the northern hemisphere it is summer, almost summer. This is the full moon right before the solstice. So this would be a great time to do some kind of vision quest if you feel inspired to do that. And it doesn't mean you have to go out and spend 4 days in the desert or on the mountain or wherever, but maybe just taking some time to be out under the sky and be with the moon could be a good way to activate that energy. So I'm going to turn this over to you now, Erik, for the to help us to understand this in a deeper way.
Yeah, thank you, Cayelin. Yes, this is a Vision Quest full moon. Anytime you involve the sign of Sagittarius in this, we can think of the term Vision Quest because it is the questing sign, the questing archetype out there, the one seeking adventure, truth, and meaning in the world. So this full moon can awaken that spirit within around this Vision Quest. The full moon transmits the light of knowledge and truth already within us to our hearts and our minds. And the call to adventure brings us to a new horizon in time and space. It's a chance for us to prepare our inner fire, invoke and invite our spirit guides to guide us while also tapping into our intuition. So this is a question we can ask. What will it reveal? What meaning, what truths will come from these discoveries as we blaze new trails? A fiery spark of hope and inspiration is possible when casting ourselves toward the horizon and beyond. This includes the outer physical world and the mystical space within. So, casting ourselves toward the horizon, there's, of course, it could be a metaphorical horizon, but it can be also a physical horizon and the horizon or boundaries maybe that we've placed upon ourselves that we've not crossed. We've not charted out new waters, new territory, new trails for ourselves. So this is a chance like to invoke and connect to that Sagittarian spirit and bring it out into our own lives as we uh, go forward out into the world.
I love that it as a fire sign, the fire signs do connect to intuition, but it's not necessarily what's felt. And it's not from the mind. It's actually the type of intuition that arrives beyond that. It's just like a knowing without knowing how you know, and just suddenly it's a knowing that's there. And if you trust it and follow it, it's always right on. Sometimes we question it and we argue with ourselves and we don't we don't necessarily listen to that intuition or whatever that knowing is that shows up out of nowhere. And that's to our detriment or to our, doesn't anyway, it's best to listen and to act on whatever that intuition is coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. And even as we do that, we might not get some kind of immediate answer or meaning, and we might because there's no answer at that moment, we might shove it aside and or decide that it wasn't working, whatever it was that we think we were doing. So that it does require a little bit of like trust and faith that you are moving in that direction. I'm not talking about patience. I mean, certainly that can be weaved into that. Sagittarius is not known for patience.
None of the
Uh,
fire signs are known for patience.
no, they're not. Fire and air, particularly.
And I just want
Um,
to say, Eric and I both share our Sagittarius signatures. I think you have more Sagittarius than I do, Eric, but I definitely get the not being patient thing.
yeah, five planets, of course, in Sagittarius. So this full moon is within 4 degrees, 3.5 degrees of my sun. and Neptune conjunction in Sagittarius. So it's, you know, something I'm looking forward to connecting into for myself and you know, doing some, even if it's just some moments of meditation and acknowledgement and offering, you know, in or opening up to receiving what guidance could be coming through on that time.
Yeah, so anybody who has any Sagittarius planets, angles, or nodes, this can be a time you get some downloads, insights, and especially if you're taking the time to vision quest, whatever that looks like for you, through meditation,
Yes.
through just being out under the stars, through, uh, I don't know, chanting, singing, dancing, different ways that we can open ourselves up to receive that greater vision coming through.
Yeah. Correction. The moon is going to be on my close to my Mercury and Venus, not my sun. I was thinking of a different degree altogether. So yeah, just for the
Yeah,
purposes of for all those that are listening in,
right. For
yeah.
me, the moon is very close to my moon, within um, 2.5 to 3 degrees of my moon. So it's a Sagittarius full moon in Sagittarius, and I have a Sagittarius moon, though it wasn't full when I was born.
Yeah, but there's still even though it's out of the same phase of not your lunar return necessarily in the same phase, but it's still an important return of through the sign and close to your own natal position of the moon. So
The fact that it's
that's
an
powerful
yeah, the fact that it's a full moon illuminating and activating, as the full moon tends to do.
for sure. All right, so Caitlin, why don't you cover this?
Okay, so something to know is every Sagittarius full moon does not matter if it happens right after the moon moves into Gemini, and so it's super early degrees, or right before we have the solstice. There's like a 30-day window where we can have a Sagittarius full moon. Will always happen before the June solstice. And so this one's happening about 9 days before the June solstice. And it's illuminating the truth we expand our, as we expand our consciousness, engage the spiritual quest. So, what is that spiritual quest look like for you? We've been already asking this question, but it's worth asking it again. And what are the seeds of truth we've been cultivating that are ready to shine? For us to be even more aware of at this time as we hopefully can attune to the full moon. And I was involved with transcendental meditation, and they always said it was the moon shining soma, or this like healing elixir energy on people. So being out under the full moon is a really powerful thing to do, to absorb that divine light that's coming through the moon at the time of the full moon. And one of the things that's really amazing about this being a Vision Quest full moon is that it's very aligned with the Venus cycle, who Venus just went through um, the Venus moon gate that represents the third eye chakra in the morning sky. And it's about really considering that there may be deeper truths than what we've believed to be true in the past. And I love this quote from Thomas Aquinas, who says, "A judgment is said to be true when it conforms to the external reality," which gets us to thinking, wait a second, is it true? Because it somehow conforms to the external reality. Maybe it's not true. It's only because we believe it to be true. And if we had a different belief, then there would be a different truth that we'd be connecting to. And that's something that the Sagittarius full moon gets us to ask those questions, like what is really true? What is the divine truth or the deeper truth of what's going on? So this is shining a light on the evolution of what we believe to be true in our external reality, growing, evolving, and expanding consciousness, because that's what it's all about, is growing, evolving, and expanding our consciousness as we discover new truths in an emerging new reality. So it's interesting to consider that there's been truths. People believed the world was flat. To them, that was truth. And then, you know, there was the whole other truth that came about. Oh, it's not actually flat. And or that evolution happened in a specific way. And then other things have come forth since that time and have got us to question what we believed to be true. So it can happen in many different ways that it's like, is it really true? How committed are we to that truth? And are we open to a maybe more expanded truth that is liberating to our mind and to our consciousness?
Yes. Yeah, well said. All right. Let's go into the next thing. One of the cool things, qualities about this particular full moon is uh, that it's out of bounds. Um, there's a period of time, as highlighted up there in the upper left corner of the slide or the sharing here, where it's at its maximum amount of being out of bounds. And you could see here on June 11th, which is the day of the full moon, at 12:44 a.m. Tucson Mountain Standard Time, Pacific Daylight Time, that you get this really incredible moment where the moon is pretty far to the south of the ecliptic, and that puts it even like just right on range at the galactic center right there, or within a few degrees of it anyway, but it's in that neighborhood anyway. So you're seeing this, and from June 9th, as throughout the day, once it goes beyond that 23 and a half-ish degree mark of the ecliptic, it it goes out of bounds. So it's south of the ecliptic when that's happening, and then June 10th and then June 11th, it reaches its maximum. And then you could see it kind of gets uh, right a little bit more just at the very beginning of June 12th, but then it starts to decline after that. And then by the time we get to June 14th, it's back in within the sort of the range of the ecliptic, which is the plane of the solar system and the path of the sun across the sky.
So
And
essentially,
so
we really have 5 days, or at least, like if we take the day of the 9th and the 14th, it's not out of bounds the whole entire time. So we could say about 5 days of the moon being outside the boundaries of the sun, outside ordinary reality, into extraordinary reality. So if we're thinking about this full moon, it's extraordinary in that it's in this out of bounds place. And so the possibilities of having insights and visions and things coming through that are beyond the ordinary is extraordinarily possible. Yeah.
indeed, yeah. And you could see here, there's another illustration of this, but what Cayelin's got here with this, it forms this grand cross with the lunar nodes, connecting us to past and future into the present here as we align with the full moon in the signs that are of service to spirit, Sagittarius, Gemini, and Virgo, and Pisces, all interconnected here. Kind of a great illustration as that comes in. So as the moon rises, the south node will be uh, you know, coming up in the at the midheaven point. And as the moon sets and the sun is rising, then it'll be flipped on that way. Obviously, by that point, the moon will have moved quite a number of degrees, but still, it'll still be um, in that space, in that area of energy that's impactful for humanity.
Beautiful. Yep.
Yep.
This is an extraordinary full moon, just saying.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so go ahead and share
So
more
for,
about
for
this.
those of you who don't really get what out of bounds means, this is showing the sun rising and setting along the horizon uh, during the different seasons. And so when we're at the equinox seasons, it's rising exactly due east and due west. When we're at the solstice seasons, it's either furthest north or furthest south. Now, the June solstice is always furthest north, and it doesn't matter what hemisphere you're in. The difference is if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's the opposite season because the moon is tracking low across the sky, so the days are shorter. Whereas in the northern hemisphere, the sun is tracking high across the sky, so the days are longer. And then, so the full moon, that means then at the full moon, this in the northern hemisphere, the sun will be I mean, the moon will be tracking low across the sky. uh, as the sun is tracking high across the sky because it's opposite. So that's what a full moon is opposite the sun. So it's doing the opposite thing. And the sun can only go so far north and so far south. Only 23 degrees and 29 minutes north or south of the exact east or west point. But the planets can go out beyond that. And in fact, Mercury will be out beyond that on June 1st to June 20th, all the way up to the solstice. It's going to be out of bounds as well. So we can add that to the out of bounds, like the wild card factor. I
Hmm.
forget the date June that Mercury moves into Cancer exact, but it's right around the time. I think it's around June 9th um, when Jupiter is moving into Cancer. June 8th, June 9th, somewhere in there is when it's moving into Cancer. So anyway,
Yes.
but it's wildly out of bounds as well. And so we've got another factor that's telling us, how can we look at whatever's going on in a new way? How can we see this in allow ourselves to expand our vision and expand our awareness to something that is beyond what we normally think about every day?
Yeah, it's like a the moon itself because it can go the farthest well beyond what the sun does, and quite a number of the planets too. That's like the stretching of that a rubber band beyond the boundaries and going beyond into the ex sort of extreme level. So it's shifting and expanding our own perspective about our world and helping us along to get ideas and visions and insights that we wouldn't normally otherwise have.
And just something to keep in mind is that this can only happen when planets or the moon are in the signs of Gemini, Cancer, or Sagittarius, Capricorn. That it could go because that's where the sun is at its most extreme north or south. It's in those signs.
Yes,
So that's when these planets can go outside the boundaries. And so if you have something in Aries or Libra, it's never going to be outside the boundaries. So it's at the center point of everything. So yeah, just something to keep in mind as well. And this wild card factor, it's like we don't know, it's unpredictable. These energies can be quite unpredictable and can maybe disrupt what we know so that we can expand our sense of possibilities and is what is true and what's not true, especially in a Sagittarius full moon that's outside the boundaries.
absolutely. Yeah, well said. Um, okay, here's a map of the sky. This is essentially representation of what will be seen out there when we connect into the full moon, or at least, from the northern hemisphere, this is for most places, this is what it will look like. But if you're in the southern hemisphere, things are going to be upside down. So just keep that in mind that it's not going to look like this exactly. Um, so yeah, so you see the moon here is the full moon. Here's the galactic center just between this Scorpion constellation here and the Archer constellation right there. And then Ophiuchus is just to the above here. And so there's the galactic center. The arrow of the Archer is pointing toward it here. And there's the moon, pretty far south. This green line, this is where this is the ecliptic. This is where the path of the sun and the majority of the planets primarily travel. And then here's this red point here. That's the solstice. That's where the sun would be at the winter solstice. And so this is in a lower part of the sky here in the north. Obviously, it'd be higher up in the southern hemisphere. So yeah, that's why the moon is going to look pretty low in the sky for a lot of people in the world because it's anytime the sun is near getting close to the solstice point, it's really, really high in the sky in the northern hemisphere. And so any kind of full moon that happens, it's going to be opposite. So it'll be really, really low in the sky, especially for those that are like in, uh, you know, uh, way up into the northern parts of the world. They're going to see it, even farther down.
Yeah. I'll just say I hadn't fully comprehended this. I sort of knew it. But many years ago, I was doing a hike in a slot canyon with the full moon in Sagittarius and thinking, oh,
Oh.
moon and we're gonna, it'll light our way. So we went in at the end of the day and we're coming out at night. And what I didn't realize is, oh, the moon tracks low across the sky. So it was behind the canyon walls a lot of the time. So it didn't light things
Oh,
up the way that I thought they would. And I was like, got a very visceral experience of how that set, that's the June solstice full moon or the June, the full moon at that time of the year is definitely not tracking high across the sky.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. I can understand how that could happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you don't always think about these things until you have that direct experience. And now I know better. It was a great learning. So luckily we didn't get lost and we did get out. But anyway,
Exactly. Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you didn't get lost and get out because that's, if you don't have enough light to see, it's definitely a major
and we
challenge.
had the little flashlights, but they were very, and when the moon was above, it was like light enough, because it's almost like daylight when there's a bright full moon. But our little flashlights. Anyway, more to
Yeah,
that stories for another time.
especially when there's no light pollution, you really get the full understanding of why a full moon is like when you're out under it that you can see quite a lot around you. It's
Unless it's behind
super
the canyon
bright.
walls.
Unless it's behind the canyon walls, then you are just camp until the sun comes up. All right. Here we go. So, Cayelin, shall I talk about this? Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so this is just an expansion of what Cayelin shared a couple slides ago about the chart. So I've got it illustrated here on this chart here where the galactic center is currently at this time, 2711 Sagittarius, and the galactic attractor are
Great
is
Attractor.
right there at 14 degrees. The Great Attractor, sorry.
Okay.
I mean, you can call it the galactic attractor, I guess, because it's attracting galaxies. So
Attracting the galaxy to it. So yeah.
yes, yeah, and other ones too, including ours. So yeah, so you can see how close they are. It's really interesting that they're only 13 degrees apart. And see, there's the moon right between, like sitting right in the middle of that, the midpoint between the attractor and the galactic center there. So that's really special. And in this kite formation, it kind of draws the attention or the focal point to where whatever that point of the where it's like the narrowing of the kite. And so this is where the full moon is. So it's really like the one that's kind of holding all the energy together for the rest, which you can see here in that grand cross that Cayelin shared too. I've got that yellow highlighted with the south node in Virgo, the north in Pisces. There we got the sun in Gemini, but then we've got Mars in Leo here at 26 Leo, and then we have Eris and Chiron at 25 and 26 respectively of Aries. So you're really getting that fire trine, that great fire trine, plus the nodes in the square, and then of course the sun being the opposite of the moon in Gemini there. That's really, really important. I've got all the different things that are listed right here and how this is adding to the specialness of this full moon, this out of bounds full moon here.
Yeah, and kites are magical because you don't see them that often. One and two because it's activating also the trine. There's going to be an opposition always in a kite, but the trines and sextiles. So and if we think about a kite is usually headed up into the sky, right? When we go fly a kite.
Yeah, there's some balance to this because it's you've got the sextiles to the sun. You've got the trine between Mars and Eris Chiron combination, and then you've
Yeah.
got the opposition, of course, which represented by the full moon. So there's something really magical about that, and of course the trine of the moon to Mars, the trine of the moon to the Chiron Eris combination. So there's something
Chiron,
really
Eris,
balanced, but also
Mars. Also,
strongly active with all the fiery energy.
yeah,
Go
that
ahead.
creating that grand fire trine, which is like representative of a mastery in the element of fire.
Yes.
Yes, so full moons don't always have a grand trine happening when they're full, but this one, and it's close. The degrees are very close. It's a pretty tight grand trine.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's what we'll be experiencing. And even when the exact full moon is passed, um, on the 11th, we will still throughout the day on the 11th of June, 2025, be experiencing a lot of that energy as it completes its trine, with Mars and Eris Chiron as well. So there's some additional energies that are going to continue to be released from that throughout the day.
Yep, definitely.
This is, as I like to do with new moons and full moons, I like to look at the Sabian symbols of this. And as we've been doing in this series of full moons, for those that have especially have been watching these episodes here of that. So this is because the full moon's at 20 Sagittarius, the Sabian symbol is 21. And so the symbol is written through in Linda Hill's book, Sabian Oracle, which is she gets from in her sort of reconstitution of what Dane Rajar and Mark Edmund Jones and there was another person involved. She was Mark's wife, I think, that her partner. She was also involved in creating the Sabian symbols. Anyway, it was all really powerful. So each degree on the 360 degree wheel is symbolic of something. And so this happens to be a child and a dog wearing borrowed eyeglasses as the symbol here. So the keywords include emulation leading to actualization. So vision coming into matter. The rewards of make believe, having fun, dog obedience, classes and training, like training a dog to connect. So pantomimes, dealing with life through play and fantasy, difficulty in understanding each other. So there could be this sense of like, yes, there can be a challenge. Like, do we really understand? Are we talking the same language here? But how we have perception of each other, spontaneity or spontaneous and carefree activity. And I mentioned having fun, which she writes cartooning and clowning, and then having the eyes to see and glasses of all kinds. I like that one, having the eyes to see. So it's like this through play. It's almost in a way tapping into the Sagittarian uh, polarity as it draws that in to the full moon here. And what I write here is this may be expressed as a time out from the seriousness of life, but with a strong creative lesson. Sometimes it's just about having fun in the midst of the intensity that the hard reality presents. In addition, is the same creative energy that presents an opportunity to see beyond any current fixed or limited vision. And since the moon is out of bounds as well, it I think accentuates this really, really perfectly for the world. And so I like the Sabian symbol, especially in its combination with the out of bounds energy.
I love this opportunity to see beyond any current fixed or limited vision. This is the
Yeah,
vision of the full moon. We're expanding our vision. And it's an out of bounds moon, expanding our vision. It's the Sabian symbol is expanding it's all working together in such a beautiful, amazing, magical kind of way.
absolutely. Yeah. So this is adds a little bit of a wrinkle into it, but still expressing the fullness of what that alignment shows during this really powerful full moon here. Um,
I
all
love the eye
right, so let's.
on the
Oh,
kid in the
thank you. Yeah,
so
yeah, you
fun.
can. It's a great shot there. Um, all right, so let's look at the nakshatras, Cayelin.
Something this is showing where the moon will be exact at the time of the full moon. And as Erik has pointed out before, it's way below the ecliptic. It's getting ready to cross over the galactic center. So I'm going to share two nakshatras with you because this one, um, Yeshta, is located
Yes,
between,
Jeshta.
yeah, it's located between 10, almost 11 degrees Sagittarius and 24 degrees Sagittarius. So it's very close to Antares, that's at 10 degrees and 7 minutes of Sagittarius, and then goes to the tail of the Scorpion. And so the nakshatras are 27 nakshatras. In some traditions there's 28, but the reason is because the moon moves about 13 degrees a day, going and comes back to a starting point every 27.3 days. So that's why there's 27 nakshatras. So it's how far the moon moves in a day is how they created these nakshatras. And the symbol for this nakshatra is a round amulet or earring denoting authority, seniority, and expertise. The three lines connecting the inner and outer circles represent the past, present, and future. So you can see that off in the upper left corner there. And the deity is Indra, king of the Devas or gods, and Indra is associated with strength, leadership, and the protection of righteousness. So this nakshatra is known for its leadership qualities and strong sense of responsibility. So these are some additional energies that we might find present at this full moon in this nakshatra.
Yeah, this is yeah, adding some additional like layers as you shared. I mean, that's I hadn't thought about this and as far as like what that would bring in here, but that's another um powerful symbol that can really represent the importance of this full moon here.
And really thinking about strength and leadership and the protection of the righteous, like I don't know what that means exactly. Righteous people have a lot of different definitions of that, but what's right? What's in integrity? What is aligned? And how do we have the strength to connect with that as we're visioning at this full moon? Pretty
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So yeah, so this full moon is out of bounds. It's passing over directly over Galactic Center because the Galactic Center is south of the ecliptic, the exact Galactic Center, but you could see it aligned here with the winter solstice point, which is 0 degrees Capricorn. Um, and the Galactic Center 2713, about 13 hours after the exact full moon. So 1:33 p.m. Pacific, and Arizona time as well, Mountain Standard Time.
And
So,
most people probably won't see this unless it happens to be night for you. And then of course it wouldn't be 1:33 p.m. It would be middle of the night. But if it's night for you, you might see then that full moon is right at the galactic center, emanating, transmitting from that part of the sky. And it can only do this during the 19-year lunar standstill. So this year is one of the maximum points of that lunar standstill where the full moon is literally within hours after the exact full moon, transmitting directly from galactic center to the Earth. What what
yes,
kind of what kind of messages, what kind of information, what kind of light codes, what's coming to us through this full moon?
for sure. Yeah. Here's the second nakshatra that we can cover with or you can cover with the Galactic Center involved too.
Yes. So from 24 degrees. So if you have planets, and I'm using the seasonal signs to define the nakshatras because, of course, we can see that from the tail of the scorpion into the archer is the where this nakshatra is located. But by seasons, by the seasonal signs, it's 24 Sagittarius to 7 Capricorn. And it features the tail of the scorpion and the galactic cross at the galactic center that the archer's arrow is pointing towards. And this nakshatra is called Mula, and it means root or center. And so the symbol, as you can see up in the upper left, is a stylized bundle of roots representing not only Mula's urge to seek the essential nature of all things, but also to seek the practice of making medicines. And seeking is very much what Sagittarius full moon is all about. Being a seeker on the path, going for expanded states of consciousness. So Mula is associated with Nariti, the goddess of destruction, that and they like to see her as destroying ignorance. And she's the goddess of destruction and chaos, including powerful and transformative forces. Now, what's interesting about this is that this full moon is also trine Eris and Chiron. And Eris is the Greek goddess of destruction and chaos, or discord. Um, and Chiron's about healing, being the shamanic healer. So this nakshatra is also speaking to that energy. And so she's the feminine form of Rudra, the god of storms and destruction, and she is linked to the tide roots, symbolizing the foundation and core, digging deep into the origin of matters, linked to the banyan tree, a symbol of strength, resilience, and longevity. So this full moon, I mean, it starts out in the nakshatra right prior, and then moves into this nakshatra as it's during the same day, within 13 hours, like, you know, just after midnight for the full moon on the West Coast, and then just after noon for those of us on the West Coast when it gets to the Galactic Center.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it'll carry on to that next nakshatra and then activate the mula.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ooh. Okay. So something about that area of the sky, which we're kind of getting into here with this. There's something that I looked into years ago that had to do with the world tree. Was inspired also from Cayelin Yu and Downju Mario, talking about the mythologies and the stories of the stars in general with that area where the Scorpion constellation in particular, um, is symbolized by this powerful part of the Norse mythology. So the scorpion, serpent, dragon was a protector of the underworld, or Niflheim, Niflheim of the Norse. Niflheim is the quote a world of the underworld, and the roots of Yggdrasil, which is the world tree. So if you could see here in this image here, it's the galactic Milky Way galaxy here, and here's Nidhogg right here on at the end of this image here, and you can see that the constellation goes into not just Scorpion, but it actually goes into the Archer as well. So it wraps around this Milky Way galaxy. So one perspective is when you're looking at the Scorpion galaxies, it's rising and the full moon's right at that moment. It's right there at the tail where it's as part of the wrapping around that and the galactic center. You're seeing this, it's connected into the greater world tree as it rises up and connects into the also in the northern constellations and the circumpolar stars up there. So Nidhogg's body and tail consists of many of the same stars as the current Scorpion, but also some of the Archer. 19 stars made up of its body and tail, while only four made up its head. And this image from a great book, When the Dragon Wore the Crown. He is a really goes into a lot of different cosmologies through ages and history. And this was one of the times where he was talking about the Scorpion. So when we're looking and perceiving these stars, there were definite stories and projections upon these stars. And another one is like I don't know if we're talking about it during this, but the Scorpion is Maui's fishhook as well, from the Hawaiian traditions. So depending on where maybe your ancestry or what you grew up as, you might have a little bit different perspective of this, but this is really an interesting thing and how powerfully it's tied into the cosmology of really the entire starscape here.
I love what you're bringing through here, Eric, because uh, it reminds us that how it's been seen or how we've been told it's been seen isn't the only way it has been seen. And how are we getting our own transmissions and understanding of these stars? And maybe it's time for a new perspective on them. I have to say the scorpion from where I live looks very much like a scorpion. But I have
Yes.
been
Oh,
in
I
Hawaii.
agree.
Yeah, I've been in Hawaii and seen the scorpion supposedly rising, and it looks exactly like a fishhook. So it depends on where you are on the planet and what your relationship is to these stars and what's the transmission that comes through. And there's no right or wrong way for that to happen. It's like what's true for you. And if we
Mhm.
think about the Sagittarius mysteries of seeking the truth, what is the truth? And the truth is different in different states of consciousness, and it's also different in terms of what we're seeing in the sky based on where we live and how we're perceiving the stars that are in our sky. They're same stars, but maybe a different perspective.
Right. That was, yeah, wonderfully put because it's important to recognize that, and it's not just one way, that there's many perspectives, and obviously the most important is how we each individually relate and have a relationship with the stars.
Yes. Beautiful.
All right, let's get into the Great Attractor, Caitlin.
Okay, so as Eric pointed out earlier, the Great Attractor is around 14 degrees Sagittarius, and the full moon is around 20, 21-ish degrees of Sagittarius. So it's pretty close to where the Great Attractor is, meaning it will have just passed over the Great Attractor a few hours before the exact full moon. And this is something that I don't even know exactly when I mean, it's been around for a while. It's the last couple decades maybe, but it hasn't been something that was known where the Great Attractor is. But I feel like this full moon, having just any new moon or full moon close to the Great Attractor, is having a greater impact on the Earth as it's amplifying the energy from this part of the cosmos. And as this cosmic phenomenon is attracting our galaxy, so the Great Attractor is attracting our galaxy uh, at a really high rate of speed. We don't know exactly what it is. I can't see it exactly, but it's like this thing that all our galaxy and all the galaxies next to us are going towards. And so it's really known that it's a huge energetic force drawing many galaxies toward it at about 1 million miles per hour, which is a little bit hard to comprehend when we think we can drive a car around 75 miles per hour on the highway. And this is like way faster than that. So it's currently considered to be the supercluster of galaxies, meaning it's way bigger than our Milky Way galaxy. And in fact, the gravitational force of the Great Attractor is pulling the Milky Way in its direction. And no one has actually seen the Great Attractor because it's located behind the plane of our galaxy. So we can't see it. And there's also a lot of dust and stars and gas and so on that obscures the light that is coming from the Great Attractor. So another reason why it's not visible. And the gravitational force of the Great Attractor is seemingly bending the space-time continuum to give us a peek at the back of the universe, even though whatever is creating the Great Attraction is not yet fully known. So when planets are within 6 to 10 degrees of 14 Sagittarius, it suggests our own attraction skills are amplified. So if you have this on your natal chart, then you have connection to this part of the sky if you have planets within 6 to 10 degrees of 14 Sagittarius. And it is moving 1 degree every 72 years, so it'll be hanging out in this part of the sky probably the rest of my lifetime, um, maybe the rest of your lifetime too, Eric. And so the full moon alignment with the Great Attractor suggests it's time to ponder what are we attracting into our lives based on our thoughts, feelings, and actions. What are we attracting? Since this full moon is such a bright, illuminating light, it's a great question to ponder.
Yeah, my natal Jupiter is at a little over 14 degrees Sagittarius. So, it's
You got a very
within
fertile.
within half a degree essentially.
Yeah.
of that. So yeah, it's definitely plays a significant role in that way. A part of my five planets in Sagittarius, Jupiter's right in the middle of Sagittarius for me in my chart. So, and Jupiter also represents, it's the planet of the vision quest as well. So there's that. It kind of adds that stronger element there, very expansive. And my mind, like when I see, because it's not just the Milky Way, other galaxies. I think you mentioned this, right? Other galaxies are also
Yes.
being pulled into that space by it's like a local group of galaxies that are spinning around and being drawn into there. So, these are massive, huge amounts of space that is like we could barely comprehend how. I mean, when you're talking about something that is like helping all these different galaxies sort of orbit and or being pulled in, it's it's mind-boggling how much energy that it takes, what's
Right.
going on there, but it's powerful.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. All right, so you got some more information about it here.
Well, so basically, these are some questions to that are really designed to help reveal what may be stuck in our personal judgments of ourselves and others, and how we can work with this full moon by asking these questions. Where do we feel and express as spiritually righteous? Like, I've got the answers, and if you're not doing it my way, you're doing it wrong. Um,
Yeah.
see that playing out in some places in the world right now. How do we judge ourselves for their spirit, judge others for their spiritual or lack of spiritual beliefs? And especially if those beliefs don't align with our beliefs. So these are some
Mm.
questions to ponder. What doubts hold us back from having faith that this unfolding reality is supporting our evolutionary process? Because that can happen. I mean, I feel like the world is in such chaos right now that that can be something that can happen. It's like, what the heck is going on? But we could turn these questions around and ask them in another way. What would it take for me to feel aligned with my spiritual essence in ways that are supportive to me and those around me? This may be a better question to be asking. How is it that I feel more confident and aligned with my inner truth, my inner knowing than ever before? And how is that I am living a more joyous, more fun, more fulfilling life than ever before? Because when we ask questions, the universe will answer them. So if we're asking, how is it that I'm living a more joyous life? The universe will answer that question for you.
Yeah, yeah, it's putting it out there for the question to be answered. But if you hold on to that question and not ask or think that there is no answer or that you are not capable of either you answering it from within or something coming in from without, then you may never know the actual answer at all. Um, that's great. Yeah. Um, all right. So super wave of the current sheet. I think I've haven't really gone into this, Cayelin. I think you are more than capable of tapping into this and sharing more about this.
I became aware of the idea of the galactic superwave back in the early 2000s. There was a book written called The Great Cross of Henday, and they talk about how there, from the center of the galaxy, there's this super wave of energy that comes out about every 12,000 years, 12 to 13,000 years. Nassim Haramein, astrophysicist, has also talked about this, and he speaks to it from the perspective that our solar system is going around the center of our galaxy, and it moves into the galactic current sheet that's coming from the center of the galaxy every 30 million years. And he was saying this back in the early 2000s and saying that um, the every planet in our solar system is going through massive changes climate wise. So Earth is not just going through it, but all the planets in our solar. So it's not just human created, is basically the bottom line. Although we have made a mess of things, so not to dismiss that. And we need to do a better job of taking care of our planet. But it would, some of this would be happening even if we had done that, because that's the way it is. So, geologist Greg Braden and also geobiologist Rory Duff talk about this, and there, Roy Druff specifically says what he has observed is we are moving through the galactic current sheet, lowering the Earth's magnetic field. And that means our galactic center is extremely activated, especially when the out of bounds moon is crossing it. Since we're already in the galactic current sheet, the moon is a transmitter. It's sending this energy to us and it's getting amplified by this. And so, this is why our bodies and the earth are experiencing massive waves of the galactic cosmic energies. And the yellow dotted line in the bottom image here is showing the path of our solar system or the galactic current sheet, I'm sorry. And then the green line is showing how our solar system rises up above and drops below that line over time. And we happen to be in the phase of that cycle where we're in alignment with the galactic current sheet.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I have actually, now that you talk about this, I have heard of these. There was other astrophysicists talking about this as well.
Mhm.
And some of them don't really know, you know, what the impact is. And,
Well,
you know,
nobody alive has ever lived through that before because it's been a really long time.
right, because it takes millions of years to get to that point. And then once we do, then it's, we're not in it for too long, right? It's just what did you say? It was
Uh,
just a few thousand
at
years or
least
something?
hundreds of years or
Oh,
thousands.
hundreds of years.
It's a
Okay.
lot. So next slide, I think, is going to tell us a little more about that.
Yes. All right.
So
Great.
basically, this is it. The galactic current sheet is an electric field that ripples out from the center of the Milky Way galaxy. So when the moon is passing over galactic center, essentially occulting it, it is it is amplifying and sending those energies directly to Earth at this full moon. So it's amazing. And it covers hundreds of millions of light years with a thickness of about 20 million light years. Now, what's interesting is one light year is 6 trillion miles or 9 trillion kilometers. That's a lot. Now, the
Yeah.
so these are some of the largest structures known in our universe. And the sun has a current sheet that the Earth passes through every 8 to 10 days. It's only
Yeah.
6,000 miles, 213, 6,213 miles or 10,000 kilometers. And the Earth passes in and out of it for 2 minutes every 8 to 10 days. So this is something that is regularly happening. Whereas what's happening with the galactic current sheet is it hasn't happened in a long time and it's definitely activating whatever thing is. So it takes Earth hundreds of years to pass through the galactic current sheet. And again, geobiologist Roy Duff, he was also a master dowser, a skill he learned when he was working for the South African Mining Company back in 1981. He says, forget climate change, forget any virus. These changing space conditions are in the driver's seat. This is what's really driving change on planet Earth right now.
Yeah, I totally know that it's having an impact, and there's so much that we don't know about the interaction. Not just, I mean, even just with the sun itself, we don't have all the knowledge just on that.
Right.
Um, and then throwing in that there's also this massive sheet of energy that we are traveling through from that's emanating from the Milky Way galaxy. It's powerful. It really is super powerful. So, everything's electromagnetic. A lot of things are generating electromagnetic fields, and they're having all these different kinds of interactions with each other, and it's extremely complex, and it definitely has an impact in weather conditions and so forth. So definitely is not just human caused.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
I mean, humans have caused a lot of challenges, but whatever.
We've done some significant pollution to the planet, which has also altered a lot of the ecosystems, which also connects into the climate too. But yeah.
So Rory Duff wrote this book called A Guide to Ley Lines, Earth Energies, Nodes, and Large Vortexes. So if you want more information, you can go check that out. But he's really been studying this for the last 30 years, and he's focused on tuning into the intersections of energy links, also called nodes at the seasonal points. and the ley lines of energy going through the earth that are often called dragon lines, ley lines, but he's was looking at six emperor dragon lines that were founded as three pairs in 2012. And they crossed each other in only six places, two in the oceans, the other four on land. And in 2017, something dramatic happened, and that was due to the huge increase in cosmic energy from Galactic Center and the Galactic Current Sheet. The Earth's energy lines, or ley lines, suddenly doubled in width, and three more of these Emperor Dragon lines appeared for a total of nine that weren't there before. It's like, that's how wild things are. And he says the source of these lines is galactic, and the center of our Milky Way galaxy is almost certainly one of the sources. So we're looking at a very real possibility that these energy lines are connected to events, magnetic field, plasma, and cosmic waves now being encountered as our solar system enters the galactic current sheet. And the cosmic energy is thought to hit our atmosphere, convert to neutrinos, and pass down through Earth's solid inner core, where it is converted to ultra low vibrations that then emanate back to the surface, causing it to show up in lines of high pressure that dowsers are now registering. So, because we know that the sun's current sheet affects our atmosphere and leads to earthquakes, we know that the galactic current sheet also affects the Earth, most likely at a bigger scale. So who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. I Now makes me want to read that book myself.
Yes, I get it. So the thing to keep in mind here is that this full moon going over the center of the galaxy, amplifying the energies from galactic center and the galactic current sheet, coming directly to the Earth. Uh, Here's a way of looking at it. We'll wrap this up and how we are looking at all of this. Because it's not only is it an out of bounds, extraordinarily amazing, connected to the Great Attractor, connected to Galactic Center, full moon. It's an opportunity, and we want to keep that in mind. Like it's not about getting afraid of what could happen, but trusting that everything is happening for us, and that these energies are here to help move us into the next phase of whatever it is that we're going into on planet Earth. So Rory Duff also says the cosmic energy is designed to affect our minds and our cells in an evolutionary way when we are aligned with it. And that's the key right there, when we are aligned with it. So empathy, telepathy, clairvoyance are now being heightened for those who are aware. That's what the gifts are that's coming from this. The awakening is designed to change the consciousness grid of Earth into a long awaited golden age of love that goes beyond anything we have yet imagined. This is the essence. So, like, we could look at it and go into fear and go, oh my God, the Earth's not going to survive, or there's going to be so many changes, people won't survive. Whatever it might be, we could have that fear reaction. But this is what the intent is. And this full moon and tuning into this intention and putting our attention on it helps to bring it into reality, helps it bring it into our more visceral experience. So that's the opportunity that we have.
Yeah, you write here the end and the beginning, and it's really symbolic of our of the year 2025 here because we were having so many different planets going, especially the outer planets going through into new signs, and particularly Saturn, Neptune, uh, going through that 29th degree of Pisces into the 0 degree of Aries, and that's the end of the beginning of the zodiac right there. And so there's something in that potential that is also playing a role in the background of all that's happening here with what we're talking about.
Beautiful. I love how you said that. So this is going to be a spectacular full moon with all the energies that are present. Not only just like there's the planetary energies, there's the moon opposite the sun itself at the exact full moon, but also the trines and the sextiles and the square the nodes, the destiny, the where we've come from and where we're going. All of these factors that are coming together with the moon going over the Great Attractor, going over the Galactic Center, amplifying the energies coming in from the center of our galaxy and our opportunity to enter that golden age. And especially, I like how he says the golden age of love, because that's what's going to change everything in the most positive and amazing way.
Yes, yes, I agree. All right. Well,
So here's
uh,
to a transformative full moon, everyone.
yeah, happy Sagittarius full moon and more full moon videos to come and yeah, we're gonna have this video as part of a continual series particularly on our respective YouTube channels, but also on My Star Alchemy channel as well. So tune into that and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye, everyone.
All right, bye.